Chapter 1, A Sesame Seed Bun begins. A fateful encounter. Spring's arrival in the Western Shu Kingdom was always a vibrant affair. In the soft dawn light, the Marquis' estate resembled a slumbering lion just stirring, as a few sleepy-eyed maids began their bustling day. The back gate of the estate creaked open a sliver, revealing a head touched with silver. A figure clad in grey cloth clothing quickly emerged, black cloth shoes landing firmly on the ground, followed by two joyful hops. Though dressed like an old man, the figure's eyes sparkled with an unusual vivacity. The old man pulled a brightly embroidered fragrant pouch from his chest. Hefting the plump pouch with glee, he listened to the coins jingle within. Ah, delightful! This will keep me entertained for a few days. His voice, unexpectedly soft and youthful, startled a passerby. Eyes widening in disbelief, the passerby quickly scurried away as if encountering a specter. The old man stuck his tongue out playfully. Go on. Never seen an old man before. A mischievous glint in his eyes, he chuckled and continued on his way, having successfully frightened the passerby. Inside the Marquis residence, panicked cries erupted. Oh no! The young miss has run off again. Meanwhile, Mary Lee, the young miss of the Marquis residence, disguised as the steward Victor White, had blended into the crowd, her escapade filling her with blissful forgetfulness. After half an hour of wandering, Mary Lee's stomach rumbled. She remembered the famed sesame seed buns of the graceful guest house. Lured by the aroma of the sesame seed buns, Mary Lee entered the graceful guest house. As it was not yet noon, the establishment was sparsely populated. Finding a seat, she coughed a few times, her voice raspy and aged. Waiter, a plate of sesame seed buns, a plate of 4-color assorted dishes, and 3 ounces of soup dumplings. A waiter, white cloth draped over his shoulder, hurried over. Oh dear, esteemed customer, I apologize, but we've sold out of sesame seed buns today. Might I suggest something else? Mary Lee frowned, pouting and pretending to stroke a non-existent beard. I don't care. I came here specifically for your sesame seed buns. Perhaps you could negotiate with the last customer who bought them. We could each have half. She had finally managed to sneak out, and missing this opportunity meant another indefinite wait. The waiter scratched his head, looking troubled. But how about this, esteemed customer? The other customer is still here. Perhaps you could speak with the young master yourself. Mary Lee followed the waiter's gesture to a young man in green enjoying a bun. Across from him sat another, dressed in white, his back turned to her. Which one, waiter? Why, the young master in white, of course, the waiter replied matter-of-factly. As they spoke, the young man in white elegantly picked up a sesame seed bun. Here, David Duke, try this sesame seed bun. It's supposedly their most famous dish. David Duke, a slender young man with a refined face and bright eyes, replied respectfully, Thank you, Prince. He paused mid-sentence, as if remembering something, then lowered his voice. I almost forgot. I should address you as Master Cavil. The jade-faced man in white, his handsome features adorned with a faint smile, declared, Good to know. Consider this sesame cake a reward for you. Many thanks for Master Cavil's generosity, David Duke chuckled, savoring the sesame cake's sweetness. Watching the sesame cake disappear, Mary Lee gulped, urging, Waiter, go and negotiate with them. Feigning busyness, the waiter replied, Oh, honored guest, please wait a moment. Your order will be here shortly. With that, he vanished. Humph. Mary Lee huffed, realizing she'd have to take matters into her own hands. Adopting a deliberately square gait, she approached, Young man, this old fellow offers you greetings. David Duke, mid-chew on the fragrant sesame cake, nearly choked at the sight of an old man bowing to him. Swallowing hard, he asked, Cough, old-timer, are you bowing to me? Had there been some mistake? His master was still sitting right beside him. The man in white, seemingly oblivious, casually reached for a sesame cake. Unexpectedly, a pair of chopsticks darted out, intercepting his prize. "Old-timer," he began, "are you sure you're reaching for the right plate?" Spot on, this old fellow has found it." Mary Lee cackled. "Young master, might you yield?" The sesame cake's aroma alone was enough to make her mouth water, truly living up to its reputation. Two pairs of chopsticks locked onto the same sesame cake, neither willing to relinquish their hold. Jaw agape, David Duke glanced between the old man and his master, gulping. Well, let's discuss this calmly. Master, what are your thoughts?" Henry Cavill, regarding the old man, caught a whiff of the subtle fragrance. "The esteemed graceful guesthouse. And is this the only plate of sesame cakes?" He observed the lively glint in the old man's eyes, sensing an unusual air about him. Throwing caution to the wind, Mary Lee swallowed hard. What a coincidence! The last plate of sesame cakes in the graceful guesthouse happens to be on this table. Her voice softened. "How about we each take half? Then please arrive early tomorrow." Henry Cavill retorted, unyielding. It wasn't youthful arrogance, he simply enjoyed the sesame cakes too much to give them up. "You truly won't yield?" "I'll buy it." "I'm not asking for half for free," Mary Lee gritted, "I'll pay double." Hoping to avoid a scene, David Duke placed another sesame cake from the plate onto an empty dish. "Old-timer, this one's for you. Consider it one less for me. Are you giving alms to a beggar? I'll take the rest." Mary Lee, in an unprecedented display of extravagance, declared, "Now, I'll pay triple." "Hey, old-timer, you're being unreasonable. What gives you the right to haggle with us? I'm offering this out of goodwill. If you don't want it, I'll eat it." David Duke popped the soft, fragrant sesame cake into his mouth. Delicious, truly delicious." On the verge of tears, Mary Lee wailed, "You're bullying me. I must have this sesame cake." Henry Cavill, seemingly testing the waters, released his chopsticks. "Fine, you can have it. However, I have one condition." Mary Lee, gazing at the mangled sesame cake, lamented, "All right, name your price." Suspicion brewing, Henry Cavill declared, "You seem strong. Beat David Duke, and I'll buy you this sesame cake and today's meal." Mary Lee, unfazed, blew at a white whisker and retorted, "Fine. What's the contest?" "Wrist wrestling," Henry Cavill stated slowly. David Duke chuckled, "Sir, you'll lose. I'm the best wrist wrestler in our neck of the woods. You're in for a world of hurt." He patted his arm. Refusing to be underestimated, Mary Lee extended a hand, "I'm no slouch myself. Come, find an empty table, and let's have at it." The three moved to a nearby table, bare and without chairs. "Even better. Let's see who has the strongest horse stance," Mary Lee challenged, upping the ante. "Huh. I don't know how to do that." David Duke wailed. "Young master, let's just give the old man the sesame cake." Mary Lee crowed, "Giving up already? All right, pay up." "Hold on. David Duke won't compete, but I will." Henry Cavill's eyes gleamed. Feigning arrogance, Mary Lee questioned, "You?" "I'm undefeated. You're just a youngster. Let's call it a draw, eh?" Henry Cavill smiled, "No need. I won't underestimate you, and you shouldn't underestimate me. Let's begin." He sat, assumed the horse stance, his expression resolute. Mary Lee, with no other choice, prepared to begin, then suddenly pointed behind Henry Cavill, "Look. Your enemy is coming." Henry Cavill didn't fall for the trick. David Duke scoffed, "Old man, you're mistaken. That looks more like your enemy." Indeed, three men from the Marquis residence burst in. With surprising agility, the old man darted past the master and servant, stuffed the half-eaten sesame cake in his mouth, and muttered, excuse me, coming through. Gotta use the back door. Speechless, Henry Cavill watched the old man vanish, murmuring, who was that? Huh? Who? David Duke was clueless. Young master, what did you say? I didn't hear you. Say that again. Henry Cavill, regaining his composure, sat at the table. Why so curious? Are you full? If so, let's get going. We're almost at grandfather's. We need to buy some gifts. Hashtag chapter 2, you are the thief. Oh, right, important matters. I almost forgot. David Duke smacked his head and hurriedly sat down. I'm only half full. The snacks here are truly delicious, no worse than the palaces. So many people, so many eyes. Best to be discreet. Don't mention our identities again, understand? Henry Cavill instructed in a low, serious voice. Yes, young master. I won't breathe a word, David Duke declared gravely. The waiter approached, noticing the old man's absence. Strange. Where did he go? I rarely take notice, and I finally found a plate of sesame cakes, and now he's gone. He looked at the plate in his hand, perplexed. Henry Cavill beckoned, waiter, over here. Yes, young master, what are your commands? The waiter approached, inquiring with a smile. I'll take this plate of sesame cakes. Set it down, Henry Cavill recalled the recent encounter, a smile playing on his lips. If that person returns, I'll offer them some. Excellent, sir, please enjoy. The waiter set the plate down with a grin and hurried off to attend to other duties. Mary Lee hid in a narrow alley for a long while. Seeing no sign of pursuing household guards, she dared to touch her beard, adjust her wig, and stride boldly forward. The streets were filled with fascinating toys, many of which Mary Lee had never seen before. Her father usually kept her under strict supervision, forbidding her from venturing out. Driven by a desire to experience the bustling activity, she would sneak out every week or month in disguise, sometimes as a servant, sometimes as a maid. To avoid attention, she brought no attendants, venturing out alone. Fortunately, she had money with her, so she didn't have to worry about food or clothing. Thinking of this, Mary Lee casually reached for her purse, only to freeze in a cold sweat. Where was her money? Where was her large money pouch? Could she have dropped it while running earlier? She frantically looked around on the ground. Inside the graceful guest house, Henry Cavill finished his meal and stood up. He noticed a plump, embroidered fragrant pouch lying at the foot of an empty table. David Duke, pick that up. David Duke glanced at it. Could it be silver? He picked it up, weighed it in his hand, and said, Young master, it's quite a bit. Henry Cavill took the pouch, carefully examining the embroidered pattern. This must be a woman's fragrant pouch, but we haven't seen any women here since we arrived. I wonder who it belongs to. It's mine. Mary Lee, retracing her steps back to the graceful guesthouse, spotted her fragrant pouch and sighed in relief. Thank goodness, I've found it. As she reached for it, Henry Cavill's arm blocked her way. Hold on. I can't give this pouch to you. Why not? Mary Lee retorted. This fragrant pouch belongs to this old man. Just because you say it's yours doesn't make it so, Henry Cavill replied. People come and go in this tavern. Anyone could be the owner. You. Mary Lee fumed. Who are you? State your name. I, Victor Lee, will not argue with a nameless person. Henry Cavill, instead of revealing his identity, teased, You said you're arguing, so it seems this pouch really isn't yours. Mary Lee's beard bristled with anger. Who says it's not mine? Look closely. It's embroidered with double lotuses. Henry Cavill's expression turned cold. You're lying. Huh. Where did I lie? Mary Lee stammered, slightly bewildered. I'm an old man. How could I deceive you two ignorant youngsters? Henry Cavill narrowed his eyes, carefully observing Mary Lee's reaction. You're a man. Why would you use a fragrant pouch embroidered with double lotuses? Well. Mary Lee was momentarily speechless, unsure of how to continue the lie. She blurted out, so what? Can't my daughter like it? I'll have her embroider 2 more double lotus pouches for me. Humph, just to spite you. David Duke burst out laughing, covering his mouth. Henry Cavill glared at him and said, What? Do you think this young master is fickle? Young master, just give it back to him. If it wasn't his, why would he come looking for it? David Duke looked at Mary Lee's elderly appearance. Look at him, he doesn't seem like a bad person. Heh, this little brother is truly understanding and reasonable. Tell me, what should I call you? Mary Lee intended to befriend him, to establish a connection for future enjoyment together. My name is David Duke, and this is my master, Henry Cavill. David Duke blurted out. David Duke. Who told you to be so loose-lipped? Be careful with your words. Henry Cavill's expression changed slightly. Don't forget how those people came just now. Maybe he stole the money from someone else. Mary Lee was immediately enraged and said, Henry Cavill, you speak nonsense. When did this old man become a thief? You apologize to this old man. Then tell me, why were those people looking for you? And why did you run away so quickly? Henry Cavill's handsome face was full of disdain. I think you're a swindler, not only cheating food but also cheating money. Mary Lee was utterly furious, no longer caring about the disguise, and charged forward to attack. Unexpectedly, Henry Cavill was no ordinary person. He leaned back, his legs firm as a rock, the chopsticks in his hand becoming the best weapon, aimed directly at Mary Lee's face. Mary Lee blocked the blow, her palm twisting, suddenly grabbing the chopsticks and throwing them, pinning them into a nearby pillar. Seeing the two fighting, David Duke hurriedly acted as a mediator. Master, stop fighting. Don't make a big deal out of this. After advising his master, he quickly pulled on Mary Lee. Old sir, you should rest too. You're old, don't let my master hurt you. I demand he apologize. Mary Lee flung David Duke's hand away. Get out of the way, or I'll hit you too. David Duke snorted and said, I'm doing this for your own good. You don't know how powerful young master's kung fu is. What power? I think it's just empty reputation. Mary Lee said, you say I'm a thief, then you're just a pretty face, all looks and no substance, stingy, not even willing to give a sesame cake. Henry Cavill silently suppressed his anger. From childhood till now, he had never met anyone so unreasonable. David Duke waved his hands repeatedly, saying, don't say any more, don't say any more, old sir. Look, here's the sesame cake prepared for you, it's very delicious. Calm down, harmony brings wealth. Falsely accusing someone of being a thief, if it were you, wouldn't you be angry? Mary Lee kicked David Duke. Get out of the way, today I must teach him a lesson. As for the sesame cake, keep it for me. Henry Cavill calmly looked at the furious old man before him. The more he looked, the more suspicious he became. Are you sure you want to fight? Or do you have other skills? Mary Lee paused. Could he have seen through the disguise? Impossible. She unconsciously touched her beard, then scratched her wig. It was still there shouldn't be any problem. You're old, I don't want to fight you. Henry Cavill gave up the idea of fighting. David Duke, let's go. As for this silk purse, we'll keep it for now. Mary Lee wouldn't let it go. Thief. Give me back my silk purse. Give it back now. She yearned to snatch it back, but his height and build made it impossible. Henry Cavill clutched the silk purse tightly. I might return it, but first, tell me where you got it from. Humph, so after all this, you're still calling me a thief. Mary Lee lost her composure completely and lunged forward. Take this. I'll knock your teeth out. Henry Cavill dodged her attack. David Duke, you take care of this. Have some fun with the old man. He stepped aside, making his escape. David Duke, accepting the order, gave a wry smile and engaged Mary Lee. He'd assumed the old man was all bark and no bite, but the old man's skill surprised him. Panicked, he took a powerful blow to the chest. Landing the blow, Mary Lee gloated, how about that? Still think you can underestimate me? Witnessing David Duke's defeat, Henry Cavill reassessed the old man. Since you want a real fight, let's go somewhere else. Don't disturb the other guests. Fine, let's go. You think I'm afraid of you? Mary Lee retorted. I'll beat you so badly you'll be begging for mercy and clearing my name. Henry Cavill remained silent, and David Duke trailed behind him dejectedly. As the trio exited the graceful guesthouse, Mary Lee spotted her family servants still searching for her, the unlucky, young miss, and quickly turned, hunching over and clutching her stomach. Henry Cavill observed this and inquired, what trick are you pulling now? Mary Lee feigned distress, oh dear, young master, my stomach aches. I think I'm hungry. The more she acted, the more her stomach actually began to hurt. A quick calculation, this was bad. Her face paled, but thankfully, the beard hid it. Hashtag chapter 3 Is that blood? Henry Cavill didn't wait for her charade to continue. He grabbed her arm and pulled her along. You're a sly old fox. I can't let you out of my sight or you'll run off. Come, we'll settle this under that big tree. If you lose, you'll apologize and return what you took. David Duke looked at Mary Lee, earnestly advising, old man, it's not too late to reconsider. Don't let our young master hurt you. His martial arts are truly formidable. Provoke him, and you'll lose your life. Such words would have terrified anyone else, but not Mary Lee. She scoffed, Henry Cavill, you're all talk. I'm not afraid of you. Bring it on. Ignoring the growing discomfort in her abdomen, she resolved to win first and worry later. They reached the shade of a leafy tree and faced each other, their venomous glares alone a challenge to surrender. Seething with anger, Mary Lee addressed the bright-eyed, sharp-browed man before her, Henry Cavill, I'll remember your name. Don't ever cross my path again, or you'll regret it. Ha ha ha. Henry Cavill roared with laughter, you're conceding before we even begin. Those sound like the desperate words of a loser. Mary Lee was about to lose it, completely baffled as to why this person could so easily provoke her. She stepped forward, clenched her fists, and roared, Henry Cavill. If I don't knock you flat today, I'll write my name backward. David Duke blurted out, right, old sir, you haven't given us your name yet. Me. Mary Lee clasped her hands inwardly, silently apologizing to Victor White. Then, in a loud voice, she declared, this old one's name is known far and wide. I am Victor Lee. Henry Cavill glanced at Mary Lee and handed his fan to David Duke. Hold this for me, he said, lest someone accuse this young master of using a weapon against your bare hands. Mary Lee took another step forward, snatched the fan, and chuckled. Excellent. Then this old one won't stand on ceremony. With that, she suddenly attacked, the fan in her hand transforming into a sharp blade. Henry Cavill nimbly dodged her attacks, unhurried and unruffled. Though unarmed, his expression remained unchanged, his heartbeat steady, making it difficult for Mary Lee to get close. Not bad, you've got some skill. Mary Lee couldn't help but look at him with newfound respect. At the same time, she became even more determined to best him, but suddenly, a gush of liquid erupted from below, and she froze, stiff as a board. Oblivious to her reaction, Henry Cavill struck out with a palm strike, hitting her squarely in the chest. A soft sensation met his hand. You. He was bewildered. What was going on? Mary Lee fell to the ground, not from the pain in her backside, but from the humiliation of that blow. She was utterly mortified, wanting to cry but unable to. Seeing the old man fall, David Duke rushed forward to help. "Are you all right, old sir? Henry Cavill, you have no respect for your elders." Mary Lee carefully got to her feet, pointedly ignoring David Duke's helping hand. She stormed over to Henry Cavill, raising her hand to slap him. "You deserve this." Henry Cavill caught her hand. It felt smooth as jade, white and delicate, nothing like the hand of a 50-year-old man. A fleeting thought crossed his mind, then vanished before he could grasp it. Mary Lee quickly yanked her hand back, glaring at him as if she wanted to devour him whole. "Ah! Blood! Blood!" David Duke cried out at that moment, his voice trembling. He looked towards his master. Things had just gotten serious. "What?" Henry Cavill found it hard to believe. "Impossible. I didn't cut him with a blade." David Duke stared at Mary Lee's lower region. He's really bleeding, master. Look at the old sirs. Oh dear, what are we going to do?" They hadn't wanted trouble, but trouble had found them. Henry Cavill followed his gaze to Mary Lee's lower region and was momentarily speechless. Mary Lee felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. Damn it, this was utterly humiliating. How could she have been caught in such a disheveled state? She hurriedly covered herself, her face burning, her toes curling in embarrassment as she wished the earth would swallow her whole. Now it was Henry Cavill's turn to feel guilty. He had only meant to teach the silver thief a lesson, but he'd nearly caused a tragedy. He looked at his hand, muttering, "Impossible. This young master's strike wasn't that strong. He just fell to the ground, so why is there blood?" David Duke looked to the heavens, speechless, offering Mary Lee a weak smile. If this incident blew up, they would undoubtedly be the ones to suffer. Kind sir, please just forget about this." Mary Lee, no longer caring about saving face, understood the source of the blood. Unable to offer a lengthy explanation, she played along, "Enough. Consider this old man unlucky. I'll take my leave now." "But, your wound." Henry Cavill glanced at her lower body. "Still looking." Mary Lee, mortified, shielded herself while retreating. "I'm dropping the matter. Just go, and pretend you never saw me." A few steps later, she turned back, her eyes sharp. "Remember, not a word of this to anyone. If I find out you've broken your silence, humph." Henry Cavill stood motionless and silent. David Duke earnestly replied, "We won't say anything. We promise." Watching the old man depart, he suddenly remembered, "Oh, master, he didn't even take the silver. Let's donate it to the temple. I recall one nearby." "Oh, all right. Let's prepare the gifts then, they must be waiting impatiently," David Duke said. Master and servant resumed their original plan, quickly forgetting the incident. As Mary Lee walked, she fumed, "What a wretched day. Lost money, falsely accused of theft, and worst of all, my monthly curse. How embarrassing." Her anger grew, urging her to confront them, but her body wouldn't allow it. Dejected, she returned to the Marquis residence. Upon entering, she froze. Servants knelt, heads bowed. Her father, the Marquis, raged, his beard bristling. Behind him, Mary Lee mimicked his tirade, hands on her hips. Her imitation was so accurate it made her chuckle. Hannah Stone, glancing up, stifled a laugh. Victor White, relieved to see his disguised mistress safe, felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Noticing their expressions, Charles Lee spun around, spotting Mary Lee. Well. The young mistress finally graces us with her presence." Mary Lee quickly apologized, "I'm sorry, father. I know I was wrong. Charles Lee grabbed a broom handle thick as his arm. Mary Lee. Have my teachings fallen on deaf ears? Hannah Stone sprang forward. Master, don't hit her. Punish me instead. I failed to watch over her. Noticing Mary Lee's state, she shielded her. She looks dreadful. Let me help her change before you scold her. Yes, yes. Hannah Stone is right, father. I'll be back in a moment. Without waiting for his consent, Mary Lee pulled Hannah Stone away. Charles Lee dropped the broom, speechless. A powerful figure at court, he was powerless against his only daughter. Since his wife's death, he'd avoided remarriage, fearing it would hurt the daughter she'd borne at such cost. He'd raised her alone, but her behavior grew increasingly erratic. With the court in turmoil and his pampered daughter so headstrong, he realized he needed to find her a husband, and quickly. Charles Lee stood in the courtyard, silently calculating. Returning to her chambers, Mary Lee removed her soiled clothes, and thinking of the embarrassing incident outside, her cheeks flushed crimson. Hannah Stone, I had such rotten luck today. Hannah Stone, her expression calm, as if she had anticipated this, said to her mistress, Yes, miss, were you almost in a brawl again? Or did you dine and dash? Or perhaps another bout of misplaced chivalry? How did you know? Mary Lee, having resolved the matter and changed back into her silken robes, stretched comfortably. Oh, I'm exhausted. She patted her stomach. Goodness, I haven't even had lunch yet. Hashtag Chapter 4, Unfortunate Encounters. I've already prepared it for you, miss. Hannah Stone dutifully brought out a 3-course meal from a food basket, complete with fish, meat, and fragrant rice. Miss, eat it while it's hot. Too bad there's no sesame cake. Mary Lee's pretty face crumpled in disappointment. My poor sesame cake. The mention of the cake brought Henry Cavill to mind, and she bristled. That hateful man, I'm not done with him yet. Hannah Stone, curious, inquired, Miss, you seem agitated. Could it be you encountered a certain gentleman outside? Gentleman, my foot. Mary Lee turned away. He was undeniably handsome, though. Recalling his striking features, she explained, I didn't consult the almanac today and ran into a comet. Yes, Henry Cavill was that comet. Miss, that's your own fault. Isn't it better to stay within the residence? Why go out and stir up trouble? Hannah Stone paused, then continued, haven't you learned your lesson yet? Mary Lee paid no mind to her maid's reproach. She enjoyed the bustling atmosphere of the outside world. Lifting her chin, she declared with self-satisfaction, well, who am I? The daughter of the Marquis of the Western Shu Kingdom. Which young lady is as formidable as I? Yes, 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 it's precisely because you're so formidable that the master fears you'll cause trouble everywhere. Hannah Stone, having served her mistress for many years, understood her temperament well. Is that so? Mary Lee asked casually. Of course. Miss, you should also consider the master. Every time you cause trouble, doesn't he have to smooth things over? Not to mention the matchmakers, as soon as they hear about arranging a marriage for you, they shake their heads like rattles. Mary Lee once had countless suitors, all driven away by her father. Now, no one dared to propose, and her father worried she'd become a spinster. Mary Lee, far from being discouraged, was rather cheerful, all the better. I'm not eager to marry. Here at the Marquis residence, I have everything I need. It's a life of utter leisure. Hannah Stone, about to offer further counsel, suddenly remembered something. Oh, right, miss, the master's birthday is approaching. Have you thought about a gift? Ah. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have forgotten. Mary Lee put down her chopsticks and stood up. Hannah Stone, help me think. What's the best gift for father? Without hesitation, Hannah Stone blurted out, in my opinion, a son-in-law would be the best gift. Mary Lee flicked her sharply on the forehead. Oh, be quiet. Just adding to the chaos, aren't you? Think carefully. She, too, began to ponder, pacing with her arms crossed. Suddenly, she brightened. I've got it. How about a silk purse? But the mention of the purse reignited her annoyance. Humph, Hannah Stone, I haven't settled the score with you about that yet. Miss, what accounts are you settling with me? Hannah Stone asked, bewildered. I don't owe you any silver, do I? Tell me, why did you embroider the silk purse with sacred lotuses? Pine, bamboo, or chrysanthemum would have been so much better. Hannah Stone grew even more perplexed. I've been wronged, she declared innocently. You were the one who asked for sacred lotuses, for a peaceful mind. Now you blame me. Oh. Mary Lee remembered her request and chuckled. My dear sister, don't be angry. I was wrong, I blamed you unfairly. Please forgive me. Hannah Stone was pulled down onto a chair by her mistress. My dear miss, why don't you learn some needlework? It's not that difficult. Oh, please. Are you my father possessed? Mary Lee's beautiful face clouded with melancholy. I'd rather wield a sword than a needle. My fingers have been pricked countless times because of embroidery. I won't learn it, not even if you beat me. Your skills are the best in the Marquis residence anyway. Father won't notice if I use yours instead. Don't even mention it, Hannah Stone sighed. The Lord just roared at us like he was going to tear down the whole Marquis residence. If he finds out I faked the silk purse, he'll have my head. What's there to be afraid of? You have me to back you up. Mary Lee declared with an unflinching expression. At worst, we'll be punished together. Miss, my dear miss, please spare me. I'm fine on my own, but you scare everyone to death every time you run away. Hannah Stone said, the Lord has strictly forbidden you from going out and causing trouble, but do you listen? You always find a way. She offered her seat to her mistress. That's Mary Lee's special skill. Mary Lee boasted, puffed up with pride. I know your disguises are getting better and better, but you have to think of others too, Hannah Stone pleaded. You're not a child anymore. You should settle down. I won't listen. I won't. Mary Lee wailed. My mother passed away early. Do you want to be my stepmother? What? Hannah Stone flushed crimson at the suggestion. Miss, you can't joke about that. Good that you know it's a joke. Stop nagging, or my mother will crawl out of her grave to thank David Duke for your great kindness. Mary Lee waved her hand dismissively. You may leave now. I want to be alone for a while. Hannah Stone hesitated, still worried. Miss, the Lord's birthday celebration can't be neglected. You should think it over carefully. I'll take my leave now. Go on, go on. Mary Lee waved her hand again. Don't worry, I'll figure something out for the gift. Despite her words, Mary Lee, restless by nature, couldn't sit still. Finding no inspiration, she grabbed her sword and went to the garden to practice. It was the season of blooming flowers, vibrant with life and filled with a sweet fragrance. In the midst of her practice, she saw her father discussing something with his colleagues, all with furrowed brows. She thought about greeting them, but recalled her father's words about keeping court matters away from her. So she ignored them and continued practicing, her mind still on the birthday gift. 3 days later, Mary Lee dared to try again. This time, she disguised herself as a handsome young gentleman. At Treasure Pavilion, she once again encountered Henry Cavill. At this moment, Henry Cavill was holding a string of prayer beads, observing them with interest, and didn't forget to ask the servant beside him, David Duke, what do you think of this item? Oh, young master's eye is truly discerning. In this entire Treasure Pavilion, only this string of prayer beads is worth a look. David Duke put on a knowledgeable air and said, among these types of jade, the beads that are plump and translucent are top grade. The beads in this string, large and small, are very uniform, and they catch the light beautifully. It must be a superb gift. The owner, a man of about 40, narrowed his shrewd eyes and greeted them with a smile. It seems the two of you are connoisseurs. Indeed, this string of prayer beads is truly the treasure of our treasure pavilion. I wouldn't sell it to just anyone. You two have come at the perfect time. Mary Lee reached out and grabbed it. Hold on, although the two of you are having a pleasant conversation, I saw this string of prayer beads first. If anyone's buying it, it should be me. The owner, very quick-witted, said calmly, all right, both of you have a discerning eye. So, why don't you two discuss it first? Whoever offers the higher price gets it. Owner, aren't you just sitting there driving up the price? David Duke said, truly, it's the fisherman who profits. Henry Cavill looked at the hand holding the box of prayer beads. This brother, please remove your hand. I held this string of prayer beads first, so it should be up to me to decide whether to buy it or not. Mary Lee immediately understood. Because she was disguised as a young man this time, Henry Cavill didn't recognize her at all. Naturally, she didn't want to be discovered either, so she said brazenly, but I was the one who took a fancy to this first. On what basis should I give it to you? Henry Cavill also refused to yield. Whoever holds it gets to decide. Brother, you should choose something else. No, I must have it today. Mary Lee's eyes lit up, glaring. Seeing that both sides intended to buy, the owner became even more delighted, laughing heartily and saying, you two, don't fight. Actually, we have a pair of these prayer beads in our shop. If you both like them, then each of you can buy one string. Whether you wear it yourself or give it as a gift, it's excellent, ha ha ha. What do you two think? Mary Lee snatched it. That's more like it, owner. Wrap it up for me, I'm buying it. All right. The owner beamed, then said to Henry Cavill, please wait a moment, sir. I'll immediately have the waiter fetch the other one. Mary Lee gave a triumphant smile and said to Henry Cavill, brother, admit defeat. Hashtag Chapter 5, Finding My Own Way Down. Henry Cavill, neither angry nor amused, said, brother, why didn't you ask the price before buying? Be careful not to be swindled. Mary Lee's smile vanished, and she hurriedly asked, owner, how much is this string of prayer beads? Huh, you didn't know? The owner announced the price. This string of prayer beads is 5,000 taels of silver. Not a tael less. 5,000 taels. Mary Lee was stunned. Owner, why didn't you say so earlier? This string of beads for 5,000 taels. Are you robbing me? Henry Cavill fanned himself, chuckling incessantly. Mary Lee felt his laughter grating on her nerves, itching to punch him. But the pressing matter was the prayer beads, so she declared, shopkeeper, your establishment is shady. I'm reporting you to the authorities. Henry Cavill burst out laughing. David Duke looked as if he'd stumbled upon a living treasure. Mary Lee whirled around, yelling, what's so funny? Are you loaded? If you have the coin, buy it. I don't even want it. What? You don't want it now? Young master, you decided to buy it. I didn't hold a blade to your throat. The shopkeeper's demeanor changed. You'll explain yourself today. Treasure Pavilion doesn't fear swindlers. This string of beads isn't worth 5,000 taels. Your greed knows no bounds, trying to extort people. Mary Lee paused, then said, shopkeeper, let's renegotiate. I do want it, but the price is outrageous. Can you lower it? She toyed with the beads in her hand. It's not that I won't lower the price, but quality goods have a fixed value. The shopkeeper gestured towards Henry Cavill. This gentleman has been waiting. Mary Lee gritted her teeth. Your shop has no marked prices. How do I know I'm not being cheated? Besides, shouldn't one compare prices? If someone wants to be a fool, I won't stop them, but that fool isn't me. So, you're saying I'm the fool? Henry Cavill stepped closer to Mary Lee, his gaze lingering on her clear eyes before shifting. You snatched the beads, now you blame me. I won't waste my breath. You two are probably in cahoots. I won't be tricked. Mary Lee stepped back. Shopkeeper, I don't want the beads. I'll keep my 5,000 taels. Humph, there's all sorts these days. Just admit you don't have 5,000 taels. Seeing the sale fall through, the shopkeeper sneered. If you're broke, don't enter Treasure Pavilion. Even royalty has traded here. We deal in only the finest goods. Shopkeeper, well said. David Duke chimed in. David Duke, a word. Henry Cavill glanced at David Duke, who immediately fell silent. Mary Lee considered revealing her identity but decided against it. Fine, I didn't bring much silver today, but I'm not penniless. She untied the jade pendant at her waist, her finger hooking the knot. Feast your eyes. This is top quality, worth at least 10,000 taels. The shopkeeper squinted, scrutinizing the pendant. This is premium mutton fat jade. Perfectly round, the dragon and phoenix so lifelike. A masterpiece. Mary Lee smirked. Shopkeeper, you have a discerning eye. I'm no pauper. Your beads are simply overpriced. I'll look elsewhere. Henry Cavill, having also seen the pendant, exchanged a look with David Duke. Shopkeeper, I'll take the beads. However, they have a major flaw. I wonder if you're aware. The shopkeeper's heart tightened, as if his dark secret had been exposed. Mary Lee, curious about what he was getting at, feigned interest. Honored customer, you should really be going now, quickly, quickly. The shopkeeper began ushering him out again. Mary Lee, being a young lady with a delicate sensibility, seeing that it was no longer her concern, put away the jade pendant and left, glaring at Henry Cavill before she went. Henry Cavill felt a chill down his spine, and abruptly turned around, but the man had already left. The shopkeeper pressed him again, Sir, please clarify, what exactly is the flaw with this string of beads? The jade itself is fine, it's just a pity it's a bit gloomy, likely from being buried underground for too long. Henry Cavill said, the grave robbers may have treated it, but you can still see some traces. The shopkeeper's face changed in an instant, but he still insisted, how could that be? Sir, you're simply speaking nonsense. Am I wrong? Henry Cavill held the beads again, the yin energy is so heavy, it would be barely passable for a man to wear, but if a woman wore it on her wrist, I'm afraid she would fall ill. Ah! This? The shopkeeper rubbed his hands together, well, sir, I won't hide it from you, today I've met a true connoisseur. Tell you what, you name the price, and I'll consider it a bargain. Henry Cavill held out a fist, then opened it. 500 taels. The shopkeeper seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, all right, 500 taels it is. No. Henry Cavill slowly shook his head, 50 taels. What? 50 taels. The shopkeeper frowned, this is too much of a difference. How about, you add a little more? Too much. All right then, 49 taels. David Duke chimed in. The shopkeeper, after some deliberation, finally sold the string of beads, originally worth 5,000 taels, for 50. Once the silver had changed hands, Henry Cavill told David Duke to take the gift box and hurry out, afraid the shopkeeper would change his mind. Walking down the main street, David Duke looked at him with admiration. Master, you are truly amazing. This string of beads is indeed a good item, but it's certainly not worth this little silver. That shopkeeper was so easily fooled. The shopkeeper knew he was in the wrong, because he knew that once someone realized these were stolen goods, it would be very difficult to sell them. Better to sell them cheap, which naturally works in our favor. Brilliant, truly brilliant. David Duke carefully held the gift box, but, Master, is this an appropriate gift? The person grandfather wants to gift this to is an important official in the court. I imagine he receives many gifts and won't be lacking one or two like this. Come, let's go for a stroll. We'll be heading back in a few days. Yes, master. David Duke replied. As they walked, Henry Cavill suddenly sensed a change in the atmosphere. He glanced back, then his demeanor abruptly shifted. He said to David Duke, I want to go look over there, fun. David Duke was stunned at first, then played along, all right, let's go look over there, master. Be careful, don't fall. Ahead was a porcelain shop. Henry Cavill ran a few steps forward and hugged someone. I caught you. Where do you think you're going? Mary Lee, in the midst of selecting a vase, was suddenly embraced. Startled, she turned to see Henry Cavill. Old grudges and fresh resentment surged. She kicked him, exclaiming, Are you mad? Remembering her male disguise, she added, I'm a man. You're seriously ill. David Duke reacted swiftly. Recognizing the man from the treasure pavilion, he hastily intervened, Young master, you've mistaken him. He's not the beauty you seek. Your beauty is elsewhere. He deftly intercepted Henry Cavill. Beauty? As if you deserve a beauty. Now leave. Don't bother me. Mary Lee, recalling his outrageous behavior, wanted him gone. Henry Cavill glanced into the distance, then leaned closer. This lord fancies you. Heh. Give me a smile. His grin widened, unrestrained. Had he lost his mind? Mary Lee's skin crawled. Did this fellow have peculiar inclinations? Yet, he seemed to be teasing her. Convinced she understood, her anger flared. Are you doing this on purpose? Why do you appear everywhere I go? You're a persistent pest, a walking curse. Young master, please don't be angry. I apologize on his behalf. My master isn't well. Please forgive him. David Duke offered a conciliatory smile. Truly sorry. My fault. He, too, felt his master was going too far, but saw no other option in the moment. He's unwell. Then he should stay home, not make a spectacle of himself. Mary Lee glared at the approaching Henry Cavill. I'm warning you, stop pestering me. I'll fight back. She made a threatening gesture. Seeing the figure in the distance disappear, Henry Cavill's demeanor shifted. My apologies, young master. That was a misunderstanding. A grave offense. His sudden composure baffled Mary Lee further. Are you truly ill? Go home. By the way, did you get the prayer beads? Did someone rip you off so badly you fell ill? Henry Cavill sensed the young master's lingering resentment over the beads. Recognizing his own prior transgression, he swallowed his pride. I'm afraid I must disappoint you, young master. We acquired the beads for a mere 50 taels of silver. What? Mary Lee bristled with disbelief. Fine, boast all you want. 5,000 taels down to 500 would be believable, but 50? Ha! You think I'm a child? Young master, you wrong us. We've barely exchanged a word. Why would we deceive you? David Duke shook the gift box. See. Here are the beads. The box alone is worth 15 taels, a gift from the shopkeeper. Mary Lee's face fell. How can this be? No. I must confront the shopkeeper. There was another string. I must have it. Acquiring things requires this. Henry Cavill tapped his head. Hashtag chapter 6, who's deliberately provoking trouble? Henry Cavill's jesting only fueled Mary Lee's fury. Get out of my way. I don't need your interference. I'm trying to buy a vase, and you're harassing me. Leave. Get out of my sight this instant. Emboldened by her disguise, she shed all pretense of politeness. Strange, isn't it? A wide-open road, each going their own way, yet where you tread, I cannot. The danger past, Henry Cavill found this person intriguing, a playful mood rising within him. Then I ask you, with such a broad road, why did you lunge at me just now? Mary Lee glanced around, disgust evident on her face. Ugh, utterly revolting. I'll need a thorough cleansing when I get back. She sniffed the hand Henry Cavill had touched, the scent of him clinging to her skin, growing stronger with each inhale. David Duke stifled a laugh. A man embracing a man truly sparked the imagination. Thankfully, his master managed to pull it off, and now that the trailing nuisance was gone, he could relax. Just. Now, this young master was merely careless. Next time, even if you were to drag me with oxen and horses, I wouldn't budge an inch. Henry Cavill simply wanted to spar verbally with this person. The feeling was peculiar, wanting to leave yet rooted to the spot. Perhaps, he mused, it was their captivating gaze. Master, master. David Duke nudged him gently. Let's be off. Don't disturb this young master's enjoyment any further. Henry Cavill, his thoughts returning, said, very well, take your time choosing. David Duke, let's go. A strange feeling lingered in his heart. And this time, he added, don't let yourself be taken advantage of. Overwhelmed by a mix of shame and anger, Mary Lee reacted without thinking, flinging the porcelain vase in her hand. Henry Cavill dodged it effortlessly, the crash echoing as the once perfect vase shattered into countless pieces. This time, the shopkeeper wasn't amused. He glared at Mary Lee. Young master, that vase was worth 1,000 taels of silver. You'll pay for it. Mary Lee was near tears. Shopkeeper, are you trying to rob me in broad daylight? That vase is worth 30 taels at most. You're asking for the moon. The shopkeeper puffed up his chest. Humph, if you don't know quality, don't spout nonsense. This is a 300-year-old antique, a prized possession of my shop. Now that you've broken it, who else am I supposed to ask for compensation? Mary Lee inwardly regretted her foolish act, but quickly regained her composure. Examining the shards on the ground, she finally noticed something amiss. Picking up a piece with a red mark, she said, Shopkeeper, you're a swindler. Do you want me to smash all your vases? The shopkeeper's face turned purple with rage. You slanderous wretch. I run an honest business. How dare you call me a swindler? Henry Cavill, having already spotted the clue, spoke up. Shopkeeper, what's your connection to the owner of Treasure Pavilion? The shopkeeper froze, then blurted out, why do you ask so many questions? He calls me elder brother. Just as I suspected, birds of a feather. Henry Cavill stepped forward, taking the shard from Mary Lee's hand. Shopkeeper, look closely. This mark is fresh, not 300 years old. You're trying to cheat someone who doesn't know any better. Mary Lee lunged forward, grabbing the shopkeeper by the collar. Remember this. If I ever catch you cheating anyone again, don't expect any mercy. This broken vase is your lesson. The shopkeeper, speechless, could only endure the scolding, apologizing profusely. Ha, my apologies to both of you. I truly offended you. Please forgive my old, dim eyes. Let it go, won't you? What kind of joke is this? Mary Lee could hardly contain her anger. If I hadn't discovered the secret on the porcelain shard, I would have been completely fooled. Mary Lee calmed down and released the shopkeeper. Consider yourself lucky today. This young master won't bother with you. She turned and chased after Henry Cavill. Hey, you stop. Our business isn't finished yet. Henry Cavill strode forward, stealthily observing his surroundings. Seeing nothing suspicious, he turned and said, This brother, is there something else? Suddenly, a few claps of thunder echoed from the sky, and large raindrops, the size of beans, began to fall, quickly turning into a downpour. Shops hurriedly closed their doors, and the bustling streets instantly lost their vibrancy. The three of them hastily ran for cover under a nearby awning, but their clothes still got slightly wet, especially Mary Lee's. Already harboring resentment, she was about to unleash her anger on Henry Cavill when she looked up, saw the sign on the awning, and burst out laughing. She knew her chance for mischief had arrived. David Duke also noticed the sign above and caught a faint fragrance. "Young master, this is a brothel. Perhaps we should find another place to wait out the rain." But the rain showed no sign of letting up. Mary Lee's eyes gleamed. "It's just a brothel. Are you too scared to go in?" "Well, I'll go first." Braving the cloying sweet scent, she stepped inside. Expecting no customers, the courtesans, seeing a handsome young man enter on his own accord, beamed and swarmed him, nearly breaking Mary Lee's arm. "My lord, come with me. I'm Lil Rosie." One particularly soft-spoken courtesan practically threw herself at Mary Lee. Mary Lee glanced at her and shook her head repeatedly, deliberately saying, "This young master doesn't like all that red on you." However, perhaps the two gentlemen outside might. Before Henry Cavill and David Duke could take a few steps forward, they were pulled back by the courtesans. An older-looking courtesan declared, "None of you fight with me. This handsome gentleman is mine." Henry Cavill, entangled, couldn't break free. "Let go of me. Such common rouge and powder, I'm afraid it'll dirty my hands." Get out, get out. We're just taking shelter under the awning. We don't need your attention." David Duke waved off the women in front of him, but the more he resisted, the more they crowded around, numbering over 10. Looking at the courtesans, Mary Lee, naturally uninterested, saw that their appearances didn't compare to hers. Feeling no jealousy, but rather concern for their livelihoods, she said, "Ladies, making a living isn't easy. These are two esteemed guests. Treat them well. As for this young master, I can take care of myself." The brothel madam, a woman of lingering charm, around 30 years old, observed their differing expressions and took a liking to Mary Lee. "Young master, we have excellent wine. Why not sit down and enjoy it slowly? As for these girls, if they don't suit your taste, it's no matter. We have others, even better ones." Mary Lee thought to herself, it would be best if that Henry Cavill went in and never came out. Henry Cavill was pulled down to a seat, and David Duke beside him was pale. The madam continued, "Oh dear, your clothes are all soaked. You'll catch a chill if you keep them on. Why don't you take them off? I'll have some other girls attend to you." She turned to the other girls, "What are you standing around for? 3 of you stay and attend to them. The rest of you, get back to work. Oh, and tell them to prepare some fine wine." After the madam left, the 3 girls came and sat beside Mary Lee, each smiling charmingly, as if they were looking at silver tails rather than people. Henry Cavill, aware of their thoughts, said, "I'm not short of silver, but you don't need to attend to us. Just dry our clothes and there will be a reward." And mine too." David Duke seemed to have regained his composure. "We've seen it all before. Go on, bring the wine to warm us up." He then stood up and said to Henry Cavill, "Master, let me take your coat off." The 3 girls looked simultaneously at Henry Cavill, the most handsome of the 3, and surrounded him, saying almost in unison, "Young master, let us attend to you." Henry Cavill glanced at them coldly and said, "You don't need to attend to me. Attend to this young master first." Chapter 7 Two jesters. Mary Lee almost choked on her saliva. No, I won't take my clothes off. They're not that wet. Young master, luckily I brought a change of clothes." David Duke took down the bundle he was carrying, which indeed contained a set of clothes, and the gift box was also inside. He quickly took off his master's outer garments and swiftly changed into the clean set. "There you go, young master. Henry Cavill, now clean and refreshed, looked at the seemingly hesitant Mary Lee. "Young master, what's wrong? Didn't you tell us to come in? Now you're acting all shy." Henry Cavill raised his wine cup. "Here's to you." At first, Mary Lee didn't want to drink, thinking she would drink when she returned to the manor. But seeing his smug look, she couldn't lose face. She raised her cup and said, "Fine, let's drink. Who's afraid of who?" But the wine was unusually strong. She choked as soon as she drank it, tears stinging her eyes. She stammered, This wine is awful. And they call it top quality. It's not fit for human consumption." David Duke poured himself another cup and said to Henry Cavill, "Someone who can't even hold their liquor is probably a little lady." "You're the one who's not a man," Mary Lee retorted. Upon hearing this, David Duke flew into a rage and jumped to his feet. This was a sore spot for him, something he couldn't speak about. "David Duke, come here," Henry Cavill called him. A flicker of hurt crossed David Duke's eyes before disappearing. As he walked over, he said, "Young master, let's leave this place when the rain lets up a bit. The sight of him irks me." Henry Cavill lowered his head and said nothing. Mary Lee also felt indignant. She grumbled, "Humph, I'm angry too. Speak of the devil. Fine, let's have a contest today and see who gets out of here first." Seeing that she was serious, Henry Cavill didn't dare to take her lightly. He asked, "What kind of contest?" He then paused, realizing this was the second time he'd been challenged since arriving. The last time it was an old man, this time a young man. Mary Lee pondered briefly, then declared, "We'll have a coin-tossing contest, but the wine cups must be placed on the heads of these lasses." "What? Isn't that treating our girls like targets?" "Absolutely not." The madam's beautiful face creased with concern. "Our girls are all exquisite beauties. What if their faces are marred?" The corner of Mary Lee's mouth twitched upwards. "What are you afraid of? This young master is no ordinary person. Follow him, and you won't want for good days. Fine, gloat while you can. I'll show you this young master's true skill in a moment." Henry Cavill's tone shifted. "However, if it's a contest, there must be a winner and a loser. What if I win?" "No, I will win," Mary Lee asserted. "The loser must acknowledge me as their master." She relished the thought. "Henry." Cavill chuckled, his face quickly regaining its composure. "If I win, I want you to take off your clothes in front of everyone, so every girl here can have a good look." Mary Lee's words caught in her throat. Could she back out now? If she lost, her true identity might be exposed. "What, scared now, are you?" Henry Cavill taunted, looking at Mary Lee. "This young master fears nothing. Go ask around, no one within 100 miles dares to provoke me." What Mary Lee said was actually true. It was just that those men didn't want to marry her. She didn't care, being married wasn't as enjoyable as staying at the Marquis residence. "All right, let's begin." Henry Cavill looked at David Duke. "Do you have any coins?" David Duke patted his pockets. "I have 4 coins. How about 2 each?" He handed 2 coins to Master and tossed the other 2 towards Mary Lee. Mary Lee, too proud to accept, fished out 3 coins, leftovers from buying candied hawthorns. She jingled them in front of David Duke. "See clearly? Using my own puts my mind at ease." "Does it really?" Henry Cavill retorted. "Did you feel at ease when you called someone else a thief?" "Humph, I eat well and sleep soundly." "Stop your nonsense, let's start. I won't lose to you this time." Remembering her previous embarrassment, Mary Lee's face flushed slightly. Henry Cavill paid no mind and stepped back a few paces. The girls lined up, wine cups balanced on their heads. "Young master, take your time," the madam said with a smile. Our girls are quite taken with you. Henry Cavill smiled faintly and suddenly flicked a coin. A crisp clinking sound echoed as the coin landed squarely in a wine cup. Excellent, excellent. David Duke and the girls cheered. Mary Lee also tossed her coin with a light flick. Another clink. Well. The two were indeed evenly matched, momentarily astonishing everyone present, including David Duke. Well done, master. He's got some skill. See that now? Mary Lee gloated inwardly. Let me tell you, this young master can shoot an arrow through a willow leaf from 100 paces. This trifling game is child's play. Henry Cavill, without a word, tossed his second coin, landing it successfully. Your turn. I'm eager to see your defeated face. I still want to take on a disciple. Mary Lee said, then lightly tossed the coin, and it landed in the same wine cup he had just thrown into. The courtesans grew even more excited, clapping their hands in admiration. The madam took out a coin and tossed it over. Young master, take this. This is the third chance for the two of you. Ladies, quiet down. Henry Cavill clutched the third coin and said, how about we play a more difficult game? How difficult? Mary Lee took the bait. We'll blindfold ourselves and then toss the coin, how about that? Henry Cavill stared intently at her. Mary Lee was astonished. Could such a game even be played? Wasn't it too difficult? Seeing her hesitation, Henry Cavill said, if you don't want to play, just admit defeat. #### Chapter 8, The Young Master Seizes the Opportunity to Escape. David Duke chimed in, that's right, if you're not going to compete, just admit defeat. He guffawed. Quiet. What's all the commotion? It's still unknown who will win. Mary Lee glared at Henry Cavill. Just you wait, I will definitely beat you. Inwardly, she hesitated. Could she really lose face in front of this crowd? The courtesans immediately fell silent. Henry Cavill gestured with his hand. Then you first, please. He looked towards the crowd. Would someone among you lend a silk scarf to blindfold this young master? I have one. I have one. Someone volunteered, offering their pink silk scarf, which carried a faint fragrance. Without waiting for Mary Lee's consent, they blindfolded her. Blindfolded, Mary Lee couldn't see a thing. She had to rely on sound to guess the position. After determining the direction, she tossed the coin casually. Hearing the sound of the coin hitting the floor, her heart instantly sank. Oh, it dropped. It dropped. David Duke cheered. This young master has lost. Mary Lee ripped the silk scarf off her face, protesting, it's not over yet. Now it's your turn. I reckon you won't do any better. This is clearly making things difficult. Despite her words, she felt uneasy. Henry Cavill laughed confidently. I'll gladly accept the challenge. Just you wait, I'll make you completely convinced. David Duke. Right. David Duke moved forward to blindfold his master. Wait. Mary Lee stopped David Duke. You stay back. Who knows if you two master and servant are colluding? I'll do it. Fine, do it then. I'm afraid you won't lose badly enough. David Duke retorted. Mary Lee held up the silk scarf. The scent on this is so strong, you'll love it. Ideally, it would make him dizzy, giving her an advantage. Henry Cavill's expression remained unchanged. All right, let's see what tricks you have up your sleeve. His eyes were quickly covered. But to Mary Lee's surprise, it was as if he had grown another pair of eyes. His aim was impeccable. The coin he tossed landed squarely in one of the wine cups. This time, the courtesans were in an uproar, clamoring for the loser to remove their clothes. Mary Lee was completely stunned. How could she escape this predicament? Silently, she questioned the heavens. Had she been too arrogant before, so that even the heavens were on Henry Cavill's side? Henry Cavill yanked the silk scarf down, casually tossing it to the floor. Ladies, the main event is about to begin. Are you ready? All the ladies, including the madam, buzzed with anticipation, David Duke practically drooling. Mary Lee felt like a pig on a chopping block, ready for the slaughter. No, she couldn't just sit and wait for her doom. Come on, hurry up, everyone's waiting. I told you, a bet's a bet. Just accept your fate. Henry Cavill taunted, you're a man, after all. What's the harm in a little show? Exactly, exactly. The madam chimed in. We don't particularly crave men's bodies, but this game is certainly novel. Oh my, young master, just take it off. Seeing no further movement, she urged, ladies, don't just stand there, help the young master undress. Yes, sister, they chorused. Several eager hands reached towards Mary Lee. She recoiled, trapped with no escape. Hold on. I'll do it myself, she blurted out. Her back flushed hot. Even in her panic, she desperately searched for a way out. Her reputation couldn't be ruined in this brothel. The rain outside had subsided, and a few more customers strolled in. The ladies swarmed them like bees to honey. Seeing the new arrivals, the madam abandoned the scene, her smile wider than a silver ingot. Mary Lee seized the opportunity. Amidst the bustling crowd, she slipped away. Henry Cavill watched her disappearing figure. Look, he's gone, he said to David Duke. What should we do? Chase him? Henry Cavill's eyes gleamed with amusement. He's quite entertaining. Of course we chase him. Mary Lee, feeling smug, made her escape. Suddenly, a hand grabbed her collar from behind. She rolled her eyes. She didn't need to look to know it was Henry Cavill. David Duke blocked her path. Young master, you haven't fulfilled your wager yet. Mary Lee wanted to cry, but no tears came. David Duke, perhaps this young master wants to attract some admirers outside the brothel. More space, more onlookers. Mary Lee struggled against Henry Cavill's grip. Young master, it was just a joke. We can't take it seriously, truly, she pleaded, resorting to begging. Not take it seriously? Humph, you change your tune quickly. Henry Cavill observed her flushed face. Who was it that wanted to take me as their master? Who was so confident about winning? Have you forgotten already? Mary Lee feigned ignorance. How do you know I've forgotten? It's true, you see. I have a terrible memory. I can't even remember what I ate yesterday, let alone what I said a moment ago. Master, he's making excuses. Don't believe him, David Duke said. Shut up, what do you know? Mary Lee snapped at David Duke. A gentleman would rather die than be humiliated. Stripping in broad daylight, in front of everyone. Where's the decency in that? Oh, so you haven't forgotten, Henry Cavill said, finding this increasingly amusing. He couldn't help but laugh. His smile was truly captivating, and Mary Lee found herself momentarily stunned. Because they were standing so close, she had her first clear look at him. He had sharp brows and bright eyes, rosy lips and white teeth, a high, straight nose, and especially those extraordinarily luminous eyes, like a beautiful young man stepped out of a painting. But, remembering his difficult behavior towards her, Mary Lee fumed, stamping her foot forcefully, aiming for his instep. Henry Cavill, already anticipating this, dodged the attack on his foot. You're still not convinced, are you? Right, I'm not convinced. Let go of my hand, let me go. As they drew closer, she could even smell his strong masculine scent, making her flustered and wanting to flee. Henry Cavill became even more obstinate, tightening his grip on her arm. I'm not letting go. I'm telling you, anyone who offends me will die a terrible death. Are you convinced or not? He seemed momentarily distracted, catching a faint, sweet fragrance. Mary Lee lunged forward a few steps and suddenly started shouting, "Help! Someone! Thief! He's robbing me!" She yelled louder and louder until Henry Cavill released her arm. "You! Brat, tell me your name, I'll remember you." Henry Cavill was both angry and amused. Having successfully escaped, Mary Lee stuck out her tongue at him as she ran. He, I'm not telling you. Serves you right. Farewell." With that, she ran down the damp street, quickly disappearing from sight. David Duke couldn't help but exclaim, "Master, that person is quite the sly one." "Forget about them," Henry Cavill said, looking at the sky. "David Duke. Let's go back before it rains. Grandfather must be anxiously waiting." "Yes," David Duke replied. After walking a few steps, Henry Cavill noticed something on the ground. "David Duke, take a look at what's over there." David Duke quickly walked over, bent down, picked it up, and said with a smile, "Master, we've struck it rich today. Look." Henry Cavill took the object from David Duke's hand, top-grade nephrite jade, of course, and even better than the jade in the palace. He looked at the snow-white nephrite jade. "Do you think its owner is worried?" David Duke understood his meaning and nodded. "Serves them right. Anyone who dares to be disrespectful to our master deserves a little lesson." Actually, they were quite interesting. "No harm done," Henry Cavill mused. "Let's not wait for them. We'll go. If it's theirs, it will return to its owner eventually." "Right. We'll hold on to it for now," David Duke said, putting the nephrite jade into his pouch. Mary Lee, having thoroughly enjoyed herself, finally returned to the Marquis residence before nightfall. Strangely, the residence was quiet, with no sign of activity. "Oh my lady, you're finally back." Hannah Stone rushed out to greet her. "I couldn't find you anywhere, and I didn't dare make a fuss. It just rained. Did you get wet, my lady?" "I'm fine," Mary Lee replied, walking towards her chambers. "By the way, where's father?" Chapter 9, The Jade Pendant Vanishes. The Lord hasn't returned to the residence yet. Victor White came back to report, saying that the Lord is drinking and chatting with some close associates. Hannah Stone said, "I don't know when he'll be back." "That's good then." Mary Lee said, "Hannah Stone, you know, I almost lost face today." She thought for a moment. "Forget it, I won't talk about it. Prepare the bathwater quickly, I want a relaxing soak." She sniffed the back of her hand. "Good heavens, I should have washed this ages ago." "Miss, if you don't want to lose face, it's simple. You just need to stay put in the Marquis residence. Everything is here, and enjoying a life of luxury isn't a problem." Hannah Stone hurriedly persuaded, "It's better than facing all sorts of troubles outside, isn't it? It's true that everything is here, but there are also things here that aren't available outside. Are there any brothels here?" "Huh. Miss, have you been to such a place before?" Hannah Stone's face paled with fright, her expression incredulous. Mary Lee flicked Hannah Stone's forehead lightly. "You, always bound by father's words, what family traditions and national laws, I don't care. A life without pleasure is a wasted youth." Hannah Stone was both amused and exasperated. "Miss, you've also read quite a few books. There's no principle that says Miss Lee should wander outside the residence all day. Moreover, sooner or later, you'll have to marry. Do you really want to be an old maid for the rest of your life? What's wrong with that?" Mary Lee deliberately provoked her maid. "This miss has perfectly functional limbs and is the daughter of a marquis. What can't I get? What's so great about men? I don't care for them at all." As she spoke, Henry Cavill's face suddenly appeared in her mind. She shook her head. "Oh, forget it, the more I talk, the more annoyed I get." Hannah Stone was also curious and asked, "Miss, Who outside is so capable that they dare to make our Marquis residence Miss suffer such indignity? Go on, don't you see that this Miss is currently a young master? I'm the one who provokes others, who dares to provoke me? The image of Henry Cavill in her mind was trampled under her feet. Seeing the Miss smile smugly, Hannah Stone sincerely said, "That's right, our Miss is as bright as ice and snow, not only beautiful but also clever. Any man would be defeated at your hands." Mary Lee chuckled a few times and said, "My confidant is none other than you, Hannah Stone. Go, prepare the bath water for this Miss." "Yes, Miss." Hannah Stone acknowledged the order and withdrew to do her work. Mary Lee's mind cleared, and she suddenly felt puzzled. Why was she still thinking about Henry Cavill? The two of them would never see each other again, right? But the thought of no longer being entangled with him brought an inexplicable sense of loss to her heart. Mary Lee couldn't understand why she was so irritated, so she grabbed the sword hanging on the wall, didn't even bother changing her clothes, and went out to the courtyard to practice. Her swordsmanship was taught by a renowned master, and her understanding surpassed even her teachers. But at this moment, her heart was heavy with worries, and it was inevitable that she would be agitated. Even her swordsmanship lost its usual steadiness, each move was powerful but lacked direction. Excellent, such excellent swordsmanship. Hannah Stone, having finished boiling the water, was escorted by two maids. "Miss, stop practicing now, and bathe first." Mary Lee sheathed her sword, regulated her breathing, and said, "This young lady is vexed, and I won't be at ease unless I practice." Hannah Stone didn't give the young mistress any face, saying, "Right, it's all your own doing, Miss." Seeing her still downcast, she added, "Come on, Miss, I'm just teasing. Rest a bit, take a nice bath, and have a good sleep. You'll be your beautiful self again tomorrow." "Oh dear, that's the only way." Mary Lee handed her sword to Hannah Stone. Two maidservants had already made preparations in the young lady's chambers. Not only was the bath and hot water ready, but also flower petals and brightly colored towels. They stood to the side, awaiting their mistress. Mary Lee entered her chambers and said, "Hannah Stone, come here and help me undress." Looking down at herself, she cried out in alarm, "It's gone, it's gone. Hannah Stone, I'm done for." "What is it, Miss?" "My jade pendant is gone." Mary Lee trembled. "If father finds out, I'm finished." "Oh." Hannah Stone also panicked. "Let's look for it. Is it in the courtyard? Maybe it fell out there while you were practicing." "Oh, right, right. I'll go look myself." But after searching high and low, the jade pendant was nowhere to be found. Hannah Stone mobilized the household servants to search together, but even after nightfall, the jade pendant remained missing, and they had to give up for the time being. Mary Lee listlessly washed her face and hands, sitting in a daze. Hannah Stone approached to comfort her. "Miss, don't be sad. The jade pendant can't grow legs and run away. It must still be somewhere in the manor. We'll look again tomorrow morning. Don't worry, all right? Hannah Stone, this is a sacred object bestowed by the Emperor. Losing it is a grave offense." Just the thought terrified Mary Lee, and she hugged herself helplessly. "Don't panic, Miss, don't lose your head." Hannah Stone said, "Think carefully. Where did you go today? Who did you meet? What did you say? And who came near you?" Reminded like this, Mary Lee suddenly realized, it's him. He must have stolen my jade pendant. He's a sly one. Him. Hannah Stone couldn't help but ask, "Who is this him you're talking about, Miss? Could there really be a thief?" Mary Lee thought it over carefully. "It's definitely him. I have to go find him right now." She rushed out excitedly. Hannah Stone quickly grabbed her hand. "Miss, don't be rash. It's dark now. Where will you go to find the jade pendant?" This, but I can't just sit here and wait for doom. Mary Lee stood there dejectedly, Henry Cavill's infuriating smirk flashing in her mind. If you want to search, let the servants do it. You're a young lady, you shouldn't go out at night like this. Hannah Stone, calmer than her mistress, said, if the jade pendant was truly stolen, there will be some sign of it. A sign? Mary Lee murmured. Right, maybe it will be sold. She looked at Hannah Stone. But what if he wants to keep it for himself? There's really no other way. We'll have to report it to the authorities. The master has many connections, we'll find it somehow. Sophie Stone said. Mary Lee grimaced, muttering, but, don't, my backside feels like it's about to bloom. The sounds of her family's disciplinary actions echoed in her ears. Oh, I'm helpless. Sophie Stone said, Miss, don't dwell on it. You should eat something. I have no appetite. Mary Lee said, leave me. I want to be alone. Sophie Stone didn't protest, quickly withdrawing. Left alone with her swirling thoughts, Mary Lee grew increasingly anxious, deciding to venture out to see if she could recover her lost item. The night was dark, the streets slick with puddles. Mary Lee retraced her steps from earlier, head down, searching, hoping with each passing moment to find what she'd lost. Nearing the brothel, the memories flooded back. Henry Cavill, that man, once again occupied her thoughts, refusing to be dismissed. Glancing up, she thought her eyes deceived her. But even after rubbing them, there was no mistake, the dashing figure was indeed Henry Cavill. Suspicion bloomed. Could he have been here all along? Mary Lee touched her face, the disguise already wiped away. She couldn't approach him as she had that afternoon. Crouching down, she smeared dirt from the street onto her face, tangled her long hair, and tied it haphazardly with a ribbon. Already dressed in men's clothing, she further dirted it, transforming from a beautiful young woman into a grimy urchin. She told herself, Mary Lee, for your jade pendant, do it. Without further hesitation, she strode resolutely towards the brothel. Inside, Henry Cavill sat sipping tea, abstaining from alcohol at David Duke's insistence, lest they face reprimands upon their return. Master, we should return to the manor. He won't show up. David Duke yawned, we're both exhausted. We should get some proper sleep. Are you that tired? Perhaps some tea. Henry Cavill glared at him, he may be cunning, but we can't be unreasonable. That jade pendant is valuable, anyone who lost it would be worried. Let's wait a little longer. If nothing else, you can sleep here, they have plenty of empty rooms. David Duke was about to reply when he noticed a vaguely familiar figure in the candlelight. Master, look, doesn't that dirty urchin look familiar? #### Chapter 10, Severed Ties, Reason Remains. Henry Cavill set down his teacup and looked up. The figure was indeed familiar, though the person was clearly a woman, disheveled and grimy. Yet, her eyes held a particular spark, something familiar. Mary Lee quickly approached Henry Cavill, saying, Master, you're still here drinking? Is it good? My brother's jade pendant is missing. Do you have it? Mary Lee asked directly, hoping he would nod. Jade pendant? What jade pendant? A courtesan nearby spoke first, we only have men here, no jade pendants. Don't try to swindle us. She looked at Mary Lee's face, filthy creature. You should leave. Don't disturb our business. Let the young lady stay. Henry Cavill looked her up and down, but how can I trust that what you say is true? The courtesan, seeing another customer enter, paid no further attention and hurried over to greet them. Mary Lee, seeing his composure, figured he likely knew the jade pendant's whereabouts, and said, this jade pendant is a family heirloom. Please return it to me, I must go home. The later it got, the greater the risk of being discovered. David Duke said, Master, I fear we've encountered a swindler. Mary Lee sternly stated, I am not a swindler. This jade pendant is truly important to us. Oh, then I'd like to know the story behind this jade pendant. Henry Cavill took a sip of tea and said, David Duke, pour the young lady some tea. Listen carefully, tea, not wine. Please. Mary Lee sat down awkwardly, accepted the teacup David Duke offered, took a reluctant sip, and said, just tell me straight, do you have the jade pendant? The jade pendant is indeed in my possession, however, you can't simply take it back just like that. Henry Cavill said, you must apologize first. Before Mary Lee could say anything more, Henry Cavill suddenly said, David Duke, I require a room. Do you wish to stay the night, sir? David Duke asked. Don't ask so many questions, just go. Henry Cavill didn't explain his reasons. Mary Lee's mind raced. In this place, at this time, she had no choice but to look out for herself. She quietly took 2 steps back and said, in that case, I'll come back tomorrow. Oh no, I'll have my older brother come find you tomorrow. It's late, you should rest. I'll be going now. She wanted to avoid any further encounters, but it seemed she was becoming increasingly entangled in this situation. Henry Cavill stood up, blocking her way. Don't be in such a hurry. It's still early. Why don't we go upstairs to a room and chat? Mary Lee raised her hand and slapped him, you're shameless. The mere thought sent shivers down her spine. Was a jade pendant worth this? Henry Cavill grabbed her arm, my dear lady, spring nights are short. In truth, he was only teasing her. Seeing her flustered, he found it amusing. Mary Lee felt her face flush crimson, but thankfully, her face was dirty, as if it provided a mask. I'm already betrothed. Don't be so improper. She lied again. Betrothed, you say? The young ladies here tell every customer they're sincere, but who truly is? Henry Cavill recalled his past experiences. Everyone around me wears a mask, in their words and actions. Who is truly genuine? The moment of vulnerability didn't escape Mary Lee's notice. She was puzzled. You? What are you talking about? Never mind, you wouldn't understand. Henry Cavill saw David Duke approaching and said, you'll understand once you're in the room. Mary Lee was still confused, but she followed him. David Duke led the way. As they ascended to the 2nd floor, they heard a cacophony of sounds. Whispered laughter, playful banter, vulgar language, and even continuous moans reached their ears. Mary Lee's face burned crimson. Seeing David Duke stop before a room, she also halted. Master, this is the room. I'll stand guard outside. Please, enter. David Duke gave a sly grin. David Duke, tell the ladies here, whoever has the attire of a respectable maiden, this young master will buy a set with silver. What, sir? David Duke asked in astonishment, young master, what do you need women's clothing for? Don't ask so many questions, just go. Henry Cavill said, standing at the doorway. Suddenly, he glanced downstairs and saw 2 figures lurking just outside the brothel, flickering in and out of sight. He couldn't help but frown. Mary Lee felt a bit apprehensive and asked, why did you bring me to this room? If her father knew she was going in and out of a brothel, her legs would probably be broken. Henry Cavill entered the room first and, noticing a fragrance, said, I'm curious, you possess such a treasure, yet. Why do you dress so shabbily? Mary Lee, telling herself that since she was already there, she might as well be at ease, also entered the room and said, I'm afraid of being taken advantage of by men like you. Ha ha ha. Henry Cavill's laughter was hearty. If I wanted to lay a hand on you, you wouldn't have escaped earlier, would you have waited until now? He looked at her. I'm just curious, why is your face so dirty? Don't worry about this, my elder brother isn't even concerned, so why should you be? Mary Lee gradually relaxed. Tell me, why did you call me to this room? I really have to go back. Don't rush, David Duke hasn't arrived yet. Henry Cavill sat down leisurely. This is your first time in a brothel, isn't it? So what? Mary Lee's face didn't redden, her heart didn't race. ##### Chapter 11 The inevitable finally arrives. Her courage secretly surprised Henry Cavill. Wouldn't ordinary women who came to such a place be weeping miserably or be ashamed? Yet she wasn't flustered at all, on the contrary, she was composed and at ease. David Duke knocked and entered, carrying a set of women's clothing. Young master, these are new clothes. A young lady wants to turn over a new leaf, these are the clothes she just bought. Give them to her. Henry Cavill waved his hand. Give them to me. Mary Lee's face was full of confusion. What are you planning? There's no such thing as a free lunch, what trick was he playing? David Duke, wait outside. Henry Cavill took the clothes from David Duke and walked step by step towards her. Seeing that David Duke had closed the door, he said, Miss, there's a tear in the back of your clothing. As soon as Mary Lee heard this, she reached back and touched her back, her entire face flushing crimson as if burned. When did you see that? Henry Cavill was about to speak when a rustling sound came from the roof. Thinking quickly, he said, Miss, why don't I help you take it off? Oh, no need, I can do it myself. Mary Lee felt thirsty and said, could you go out and get me a bowl of water? I'm thirsty. Hearing the sound of tiles being lifted, Henry Cavill suddenly embraced her and said with a chuckle, be good, my beauty, a kiss. Mary Lee's mind went blank. She saw Henry Cavill's entire demeanor change, his mouth seemingly watering, his gaze unfocused. No matter how she struggled, his hands, like iron clamps, held her tightly. Miss, you are so beautiful. Henry Cavill held her tightly and, stumbling, pushed her onto the bed. What are you doing? Let me go, let me go. Mary Lee was somewhat bewildered by what was happening. His reaction changed too quickly, as if he was no longer the same Henry Cavill. Of course, I'll kiss ya, I wanna cuddle, have babies, have babies. The lasses here are real purty, I'll be back. Henry Cavill leaned closer, pausing at her neck, lass, please, help me. Mary Lee clearly sensed movement around her. She noticed a small hole in the roof and understood. Something similar had happened at the Marquis residence before, attackers often came from the rooftops. To protect herself and her family, she'd learned to be tough. Henry Cavill, seeing her no longer resisting, took it as consent. He whispered in her ear, thank you, lass, pardon me. Then, feigning intimacy, he began to undress her. Henry Cavill placed his hand on her cheek, lightly kissing the back of his hand as if kissing a woman's cheek, smacking his lips. Mary Lee, admiring his quick thinking, played along to help him. Feigning enjoyment, she murmured, sir, you're awfully hasty. Henry Cavill grabbed a nearby thin blanket, covering them both, and chuckled, such a bonny lass, I couldn't wait any longer. Mary Lee pulled the blanket up, covering them completely, as if they were truly entangled. After a while, when the sound seemed to have faded, she quickly got out of bed, flushed. For a moment, she was speechless. David Duke entered at that moment. Master, did something happen? Henry Cavill, sitting on the divan, said, they just won't give up. Are you all right? David Duke's expression was grave, as if something serious had occurred. Henry Cavill looked at Mary Lee, my thanks to this young lady. 1,000 apologies for the intrusion. Mary Lee calmly replied, saving a life is better than building 7 pagodas. Let's forget what happened. She tried to calm her racing heart. Henry Cavill looked at her with gratitude and said to David Duke, quickly, fetch the jade pendant and give it to her. Yes, master. David Duke retrieved the jade pendant from his inner robe and respectfully presented it. Mary Lee was overjoyed. Upon receiving the jade pendant, she nearly wept with joy. Lass, it's late. We'll escort you home. Henry Cavill continued, while I can't explain everything, I must thank you. Words cannot express my gratitude. And this jade pendant, we return it to its rightful owner. Thank you. Mary Lee expressed her sincere gratitude. We're even now. Lass, do you know our master waited here for hours? David Duke started to say more, but Henry Cavill stopped him. David Duke, let's escort her home and then return to the manor. Grandfather must be worried. Henry Cavill glanced at the new clothes. Ah, right. You should change back into your own clothes, lass. These are of no use to us. Mary Lee's cheeks flushed. Well, then, please wait outside for a moment. Certainly. Henry Cavill stepped out of the room first, followed by David Duke. While she was changing, David Duke quietly said, Master, it seems we're being watched. Should we retaliate? No need. We'll wait and see. Henry Cavill lowered his voice. If they dare provoke us, they'll regret it. The Emperor is far away, let's see what they can do. Yes, this subordinate understands. David Duke said respectfully, Master, please be careful. Henry Cavill nodded solemnly. Mary Lee opened the door and shyly stepped out. Like a lotus exuding a sweet fragrance, a natural face without adornment. Henry Cavill, looking at her, could only think of this. That. Mary Lee looked down at the handrail, it's getting late. I'll be going now. You two needn't see me off, I can go by myself. No, it's so dark. What if you encounter some ruffians? Henry Cavill was a little worried. A delicate young lady like you, I'm afraid it's not safe. Mary Lee spoke confidently, young master needn't worry. Even if there's a fight, it'll be they who asked for it. Have you forgotten what I said? I've trained in martial arts. So, until we meet again. After saying this, a vague feeling of reluctance rose in her heart. Henry Cavill didn't insist further, saying to her, all right then, miss, please be careful. I apologize for not seeing you off. He paused, then added, until we meet again. In the vast sea of people, they were merely hurried passers-by. The two saw Mary Lee off. Only then did David Duke suddenly come to his senses, young master, you haven't even asked for her name. A chance encounter like this isn't bad. Henry Cavill glared at him, saying, what do you understand? How long can a woman who follows me live in peace? David Duke's expression darkened. Yes, young master. Mary Lee followed the knight back to the Marquis residence. Just as she was about to close the door, she saw the Marquis carriage returning. She hurried to greet it, lifting the curtain to look inside. She smelled only the strong scent of alcohol and knew her father was drunk tonight. Steward Victor Lee stepped down from the carriage. Seeing the young miss, he was taken aback. Young miss, it's so late, why aren't you resting yet? Mary Lee, of course, didn't reveal the truth, only replying, my heart is heavy with worry for father. I couldn't sleep. Victor White, is father drunk? Victor Lee's expression was grave, as if he had something difficult to say. He replied, goodness, the master drank too much and fell asleep in the carriage. Young miss, it's best to wait until morning to ask him yourself. All right then. Victor White, you're tired too. Go and rest. Mary Lee lifted the carriage curtain. Immediately, two servants helped the Marquis down from the carriage and escorted him to his bedroom. Mary Lee followed, a trace of unease rising in her heart. Her father rarely got this drunk. Could he really have something weighing on his mind? Inside the bedroom, Charles Lee was settled onto the bed. Two maidservants attended to him, removing his clothes and washing his face, then withdrew. Mary Lee, still worried, sat by the bed watching her father. It was then that she was startled to realize how much he had aged, with streaks of silver appearing at his temples. Water, I want water. Someone, water. Charles Li mumbled. Father, it's me, Mary. Mary Li leaned closer. Do you want water? All right, I'll pour some. She got up to pour water, then quickly returned to the bedside. Father, here's the water. Drink it. Carefully attending to her father, she felt that this was the first time she had been so filial. She was usually carefree and ignorant, always causing trouble. Only now did she realize that her father, too, would one day grow old. Charles Li drank a few sips of water, gradually becoming more alert. When he clearly saw that the person before him was his beloved daughter, he became extremely agitated. Mary, my daughter. Mary. Father, what's wrong? It's me, Mary. What are you trying to say? Mary Li revealed a trace of panic. She had never seen her father look so haggard. In her heart, her father was always a majestic and imposing figure, in control of everything. Mary, father is very afraid. Afraid? What are you afraid of? Mary Li looked into his slightly clouded eyes. The imperial court is in chaos. Charles Li gasped for breath, coughing violently, his words interrupted. Hashtag Chapter 12 The Return of the Jade Pendant Yang Ji. Father, drink some water first and rest. We can talk tomorrow. Mary Li helped her father drink, then gently patted his back. Father, no matter what happens, your daughter will always stand by you. Charles Li closed his eyes, unwilling to say more, and seemed to fall asleep quickly. Only after sensing his daughter's departure did he open his eyes and murmur, Mary, you are my only daughter. Even if I cannot keep the Marquis residence, I will find a way to protect you. Only then can I rest in peace. With that, 2 crystal-clear tears rolled down, soaking his pillow. Mary Li returned to her chambers alone, the unease in her heart gradually subsiding. She lay down, clutching the recovered jade pendant Yang Ji, feeling like it was all an unreal dream. Henry Cavill's image flashed through her mind, startling her and causing her face to flush crimson. With a touch of shyness, Mary Li quickly drifted off to sleep. In her dream, her father suddenly appeared before her, covered in blood. She cried out to him, but couldn't reach him, forced to watch him die tragically before her eyes. Ah! Mary Li screamed, jolting awake in terror. Miss, did you have a nightmare? Hannah Stone was already standing respectfully beside her. It's all right, it was just a dream. Mary Li gasped for breath, touching her forehead, which was covered in cold sweat. She took the handkerchief Hannah Stone offered and wiped it away before speaking. Hannah Stone, what time is it? Is father awake yet? After Hannah Stone helped her dress, Mary Li said, Hannah Stone, come with me to see father. I have something I want to ask him. Yes, Hannah Stone replied. The master is in the floral hall. The two walked to the floral hall, one after the other. Charles Li, already changed into light, casual clothes, was pacing back and forth with his hands clasped behind his back. Father. Mary Li called softly, feeling 1,000 words welling up inside her. Mary, you're here. Sit down. Charles Li gestured to the seat beside him. Let's have a proper talk. He sat down as well. Mary Li obediently sat down, noticing his slightly weary appearance. Father, did you drink too much last night? You were talking nonsense. Oh, really? Charles Li gave a strained laugh. What did I say? Well, it was all nonsense. Don't take it to heart. He didn't want to frighten his daughter. Mary Li continued to look into her father's eyes. Father, tell me honestly, has something happened in the imperial court? Charles Li's heart stung as if by a bee. He quickly withdrew his hand and said, No, nothing. The court is peaceful and prosperous. It's just. Father is dissatisfied with some of the emperor's actions. Mary Li lowered her head and said, Do you see me as an outsider, father? Is there something you can't tell me? Charles Lee coughed softly, masking his inner turmoil, and said, "Mary, you know that your marriage is my greatest concern. If I considered you an outsider, I would have urged you to marry long ago." "Father, not this again." Mary Lee stood up agitatedly. "I've said I won't marry. I want to stay with you forever." Charles Lee, slightly flustered, also stood up. "Mary, it's not that I don't value our bond, but you're almost 18. It's time to start a family. How can I care for you all my life? So, have I become a burden, Father?" Mary Lee's saddened eyes scanned her father's face. "Fine, tell me then, to whom must I marry? Who would even be willing to take me?" Charles Lee knew she spoke out of anger and said helplessly, "Oh, I wish to stay by your side forever too, but I can't. I'll grow old, and you need your own family." He sighed, the heavy weight in his heart known only to himself. "Father, I don't want to leave you." Mary Lee was on the verge of tears. "Men are fickle. Where can I find a husband who would please you?" Charles Lee thought of the future, a chill running through him. He caressed his daughter's flawless face. "Mary, don't cry. Remember, wherever I am, you'll always be in my heart." "Father." Mary Lee threw herself into her father's arms. "Hearing you say such things, why do I feel so heartbroken? Are you hiding something from me?" Charles Lee stroked his daughter's smooth, black hair. "Silly Mary, letting your imagination run wild again. I'm perfectly healthy, with nothing to hide." He looked up, concealing his tears. "I simply want you settled down, to ease my worries and bring new life to our family. With someone to care for you, I can rest easy." Mary Lee left her father's warm embrace, wiping her eyes. "I fear my destined one doesn't exist under these heavens." A figure flashed in her mind, and she blushed. Oblivious to his daughter's change in demeanor, Charles Lee sat back down. "My birthday celebration is in a few days. I've decided to use this occasion to find you a good match. This time, only success is permissible, no failure. I won't marry someone I don't love." Mary Lee emphasized, "Father, I'm not like other ladies. I'll only marry the one I love, and he must love only me." Charles Lee was startled by her words. "My dear daughter, a man's ambition extends to all corners of the world. Having multiple companions is commonplace. Don't be so headstrong. What about you? Why have you remained alone for so many years since mother passed?" "Well, that's..." Charles Lee was again challenged by his daughter's question, a flicker of awkwardness on his face. "You are you, and I am I. As a man, I have the freedom to take concubines, but you, as a woman, cannot act so rashly." Mary Lee, her spirits lifted, plopped down and declared, "I don't care. To become my husband, he must be the best, whether in martial arts or literary pursuits. Oh, and he must also be filial to you." "Humph." Charles Lee said, "Fate is a mysterious thing. Don't boast. Wait until there's a result. I simply wish for you to marry soon. As for the dowry, I've already prepared it." "A dowry? Father, aren't you being too hasty?" Mary Lee feigned surprise. "Do you really want to chase me out of the house?" Charles Lee had his own calculations. "Mary," he asked, "where is the Yangji jade pendant?" Mary Lee visibly relaxed, relieved she'd retrieved it last night. "It's in my room. Do you want to wear it?" "No," Charles Lee spoke slowly. "I want you to know that this Yangji jade pendant is very important. It was bestowed upon the Li family by the late emperor. Originally, there were two." "What? There are really two of these pendants?" Mary Lee instantly recalled the lie she'd told Henry Cavill, never expecting it to be true. "Yes, a pair." Charles Lee's expression remained calm. "One piece is in your possession, the other went with your aunt to the southern Spring Kingdom." Mary Lee feigned astonishment. Mary, it's not too late for you to know now. Charles Lee looked at his daughter. Years ago, to show goodwill to the Southern Spring Kingdom, the Western Shu Kingdom decreed that a woman be sent for a marriage alliance. Your grandfather recommended your aunt. Unexpectedly, that farewell was 27 years ago. This pair of dragon and phoenix bringing auspicious willow jade pendants were the gifts bestowed that year, one piece for each sibling of the Lee family. How is Aunt doing now? Mary Lee was curious. After so many years without seeing each other, she must miss you very much. Her son, Keith Norton, is your cousin. Since ascending the throne over a year ago, she has become the Empress Dowager. Humph, she wrote saying she also has a daughter, Sienna Norton, currently a consort of the Eastern Yang Kingdom's ruler, Charles Lee said. But I don't understand. After so many years, why haven't you two met? Mary Lee frowned. Can't she make her own decisions? It's not that simple. Back then, the two countries were constantly in conflict. If we met openly, or even communicated secretly, it would be seen as disloyalty to our country. We were avoiding suspicion. A profound look entered Charles Lee's eyes.